This is your student radio station.
This
is Fly FM.
Fly FM.
Hi, it's Mason Coleman live here for Fly FM. I'm joined here by the Pigeon Detectives. Guys, how you doing?
All right, yeah.
Hi, mate, you right?
Good,
Yeah.
thanks.
Right, so you guys have been a band for about over a decade now. How would you say the last decade has been for you?
The bits that we can remember have been great. It's been a wild ride. There's been plenty of ups, plenty of downs, but we've stuck together throughout it all. So we're in a really good position. We still like each other anyway, so that's good.
So, of course, tonight's gig at the Nottingham Rescue Rooms is a sellout. What do you say your past experience of Nottingham is like?
Always done quite well in Nottingham. I remember one of the first ever gigs we played in Nottingham was here. Just some crazy sort of day where some guy just put loads of bands on and they give us a rider of about 6 bottles of beer, which were about 3 years out of date, and they were pretty mean beer, but the gig was alright. And I've always done quite well, so it's good to come down here and play.
So for your new album now, we saw a change in the record label, going from Cook and Barner Records to Dance to the Radio. What was the reason for this change?
Dance to the Radio, we released our first 3 albums on, and it's our label. We sort of helped create it and we own part of it. So we kind of, with the last album, tried to give up a bit. We kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We kind of give away a little bit of control to other people that we've previously had, thinking that the grass might be greener in terms of organisation and other things, but we realised pretty quickly that if you want something done, it's probably best doing it yourself. So we decided to do it on Dance to the Radio again, and so far, we've had full control of the ship again, which is a good thing.
So obviously that album, Broken Glances, was released about a fortnight ago. What would you say the audience can expect from the album?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's different to our other stuff. Like it's not like kind of when Radiohead did Kid A, but it's definitely us trying something different, I guess, as opposed to like we're not reinventing the wheel, but there's still melodies and things like that. It's just a different approach to kind of the way we normally write, I think.
Yeah. So how would you say it compares to your? Obviously, this is your 5th studio album. How would you say it compares to the other albums that you've created?
It's more contemplative. It's kind of more electronic, more atmospheric, and whereas the other albums have been quite immediate in their impact, this one it's layered. So with each listen, you'll get something else from it, and it'll grow on you, and you'll have different favourite things popping out from it. So I think it's got a certain longevity, which we were aiming for.
So for this album, we saw that you worked with Richard Formby. What was the creative and writing process like with him on board?
Well, the sort of the writing of the album was done in our rehearsal studios back in Leeds, and we took quite a long time writing this new album. Just for the reason, sort of like what Dave and Olive just said about the style of the album. We could easily pick our guitars up and write a 3-minute sort of indie pop song, but we didn't really want to do that. So there were a lot more thought and a lot more process that went into the writing. And then once we sort of felt like we had the album that we wanted, we started looking at producers, and Richard came up. And in the early days, Richard's not a guy that would have ever worked with us, and vice versa. And when we contacted him, he actually says, well, we weren't expecting this. But then when we sat down and said, look, we don't really want to necessarily recreate our first album or whatever, and we told him what we want to achieve, and he was just on board immediately and went into the studio, and his way of working, his ideas, and the stuff he's done over the years, it just really helped with what we were trying to achieve as well. And it was a really good partnership in the end, and we're really happy with it and happy with Richard's efforts on it.
So not so long ago, you attended Nottingham. You went to the record shop FOP in the Broadmarsh Centre. Of course, we're seeing that vinyl slowly coming back now, but where do you guys feel the future for music listening is?
Online. It just is. The internet's swallowed everything, hasn't it? Movie, TV. Well, yeah, it's always the corner of the market in that. But yeah, it's online, isn't it? And there's no point. We kind of rebelled against it to begin with, and you can get a bit upset at the fact that Spotify's paying you 0.00001 pence per play or something daft. But you either sink or swim, so you've got to learn to use the internet to your advantage as opposed to fight against it. So yeah, you've got to do your sort of internet things special for the internet, and you've got to go on your Facebooks and Twitters and make yourself more sort of accessible than rock and roll bands have in the past. When we grew up, there was an air of mystery to rock stars which we loved, but these days, because everybody wants all the information immediately, and you want that extra personal touch, you've got to be active online. So it's a weird thing, the internet, but it's the way it's going. So you've got to sack up and do it.
It's pretty positive that the vinyl's making a bit of a comeback. We all like vinyl, and it's a great piece of artwork with the size of it and everything. But so, like Dave said, I think you can't fight the internet and the streaming services. Well, that's proven, isn't it? Record sales are significantly down. You know, I think like number one last week. You know, wasn't that many records compared to what we've sold on our early albums and whatnot. We would have smashed number ones out of the park. You know, it's just a different way of doing things, isn't it?
So of course you're saying that the internet is like the way forward. Not so long ago we saw that you performed a gig on Facebook Live. What was that like as an experience?
Awkward.
Yeah.
It's awkward because there's no crowd and so you get nothing back at all.
So was like the vibe of performing, was that a lot different?
Yeah, because it's especially for Matt, our singer, because he does the talking. So like he has to try and interact with the crowd that wasn't there. But you know that they are there, but they're on the phones as opposed to being there in the flesh. So it's just eerie silence when you finish playing a song. It's just weird.
You guys are from Leeds, and I presume that most of you are Leeds United fans, through your Twitter and everything. How do you think Leeds are doing this season? Of course, they're pushing for the playoffs. What's it like to be a Leeds fan?
You don't get him going.
You'll run out of tape. Or memory.
It's a good time to be a Leeds fan. It's a bit of a scary time because we're in and about the playoffs. We're playing really well, but you know, it doesn't take many games for the wheels to fall off, and I think Leeds is a big enough club to feel a certain pressure if we get in the playoffs this year, which won't really help us. So yeah, what do you think?
It's ultimately really positive. I mean, we've been terrible for the last sort of several years, or 10 years or so now. So to be where we are and the optimism around the club and you know being in the playoff positions, it's everybody's buzzing and the gate receipts are really high, which is fantastic. Revenue for the club and everything, and the club arguably deserves to be in the Premier League. You know, we're the big club with a lot of history and a big stadium. So yeah, it's really good. It's like Dave says, a lot of pressure around Leeds United. I think if we get into the playoffs, I just hope that pressure doesn't like overwhelm the players and whatnot and just crumble. But we'll see.
And finally, linking in with football, about a month ago we saw you performed live on Soccer AM. What was that like to perform on there?
Great, we've done it a few times now. Television performances are a bit like the Facebook Live thing in that you've got to there's a certain contrived aspect, but yeah, we're much more comfortable on an actual stage. But you know, the exposure is great. There's not many places these days that allow bands to play live. When we were first out, there were loads of outlets you could play on, like T4 and Transmission. There were loads of TV shows which allowed bands to play live, but these days there's pretty much zero other than Soccer M. So I think it's a really good thing for young bands to get involved in, and any band really to get involved in.
It's not just the bands as well, it's the fans, because you know, it's like, say like Jules Holland's your only outlet to find, to say, a new band, and there's like 5 slots a week on Jules Holland or something like that, so you can't possibly cover everything. So like as like a 17-18 year old, it must be hard to find like your new favourite band when there's nowhere to hear them other than just accidentally stumbling across them.
So finally, for young musicians out there, how would you recommend that they can get their name out there?
I think just do what we did really, and I think just write a really good album. And no, I'm not kidding, but that you're doing it to do it. I mean, I think you've got to arguably be able to write a song. That's the key thing. But just play as many gigs as you can. Take the opportunities. I mean, we played gigs in front of one of our first ever gigs were 2 people in the audience, so one of them was blind and he had his dog. So, you know, obviously we stuck at it and carried on going. And obviously now the internet's changed massively. So I guess just promote yourself on the internet as well and play as many gigs as possible. And that's the thing. Nothing comes easy. You've got to put the effort in, the elbow grease in, and you know, if your songs are good enough, you will get noticed.
So the Pigeon Detectives' 5th studio album, Broken Glances, is out now. Lads, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.